Panthers face off against the Cardinals.
No, bro.
Now.
Darnold's not playing.
Exactly.
Are you crazy?
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Dorm Debate podcast. We are done with week 9, and that can only mean one thing. We are halfway through the season.
No.
No. It's bad. It's bad. But it's good because we have some mid-season awards to give out. Now, before we get into that, I do want to give a quick shout out to our audio podcast listeners, the ones that are on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Alexa Media Player. Didn't even know that was a thing. Like, you guys playing us throughout your house or something? I have no idea. But quick shout out to you guys. I saw there was about 40 to 50 new downloads for the newest podcast. So we thank you so much for that. And trust me, I recognize you now, and we're going to try and put some more effort into it. So if we're doing any visual games on the podcast, we'll make sure to, help you out visually with the words and stuff. So just quick shout out to you guys. And also, we want to give a shout out to all of our TikTok followers. We just hit 120,000 followers over on there and 2 million likes on TikTok. If you're not following already, it's at Dorm Debate Podcast, and do the same on Instagram at Dorm Debate Podcast. We just, I think, hit 1,400 on Instagram. Crazy numbers. Halfway through the season, we're ready. We're ready for the home stretch, and we're just going to try and keep growing and giving you guys great content. So without further ado, let's get into our first topic. It's not the midseason awards yet, but it's Jonathan's Dallas Cowboys, who suffered a 30-16 loss in Dallas on your home field. There's really not much prep for this, Jonathan. I just want to know what the heck went wrong in Dallas.
Yeah, it was pretty shocking, but just a few things. The first thing,
and they lost to the Broncos, by the way.
Yeah, we lost to the Broncos.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah, that's pretty.
That's by a lot of points.
That's my first point. That's my first point. Actually,
Teddy Bridgewater beat you.
No, that's my first point.
The Cowboys couldn't.
We didn't play scrubs, guys. We didn't play scrubs.
Yes,
Broncos aren't like a scrub team.
Let's let Jonathan defend himself. I am eager to hear this.
He hasn't been on in a while. He's got a lot to say.
Yeah, Jonathan, express yourself, and we won't judge.
Yeah, Broncos are a decent team, especially their defense. All right, they have one of the most all-round defenses in the league. Okay, and I knew that in the beginning of the season. So I want to give credit to where credit's due. They played a heck of a game. Their defense is pretty solid. Okay. Now, to the actual game, look, Dak is not 100%. Okay, I think the coaches were rushing him. For some reason, coaches just do that naturally when athletes are injured. But we're up like 3 games in the division. Why rush him? Why not wait another week or so? Maybe the Falcons this week, he could have came back. I don't understand why coaches rushed him, because I don't think he's 100%. He was missing a lot of throws that were pretty easy and he shouldn't have missed. He didn't look like himself. And I think, he has a calf injury. A lot of people don't know this, but in order to make the most accurate throw, you need to have a good base. Your feet need to be great. And it's hard to do that if you have a leg injury or a calf injury or something. And so I think that was sort of playing a role in why he was inaccurate quite a few times. And then in terms of time of possession, Broncos had the ball for 40 or so minutes. Cowboys had the ball for less than 20 minutes, about 18 or 19 or something like that. And so you can't expect the defense to play well if the opposing offense has the ball that long. And, the Broncos, the way they're built, they run first. Teddy Bridgewater's a dual threat quarterback. He's not the best thrower, but he can keep a drive alive. And that's what they did. They kept the ball away from the Cowboys. They kept the drive alive. The defense got tired. So Diggs was getting beat. All these guys were getting beat on defense. And so it was a well-played game by the Broncos, but I don't think Dak was 100%. And I think that our defense got tired because, they were just getting beat. On unnecessary plays. Number 81, I forgot his name. He shouldn't have. Patrick. He had a really great game. I mean, receivers they have good games against the Cowboys generally, but he had a pretty good game. I think the secondary is getting tired. And so I want to give credit to where credit's due. The Broncos aren't a bunch of scrubs, guys. They're not the Jets or the
The
Jags.
Jets. The Jets beat the Bengals, who you thought are the best team in the AFC.
Yeah, but that was probably a lucky win. This one, I think the Broncos. I think the Broncos are a for real team. They're pretty decent. They're not bad.
They're not.
But-
No, they're not bad. But for me, this game comes down to one thing and one thing only. Mike McCarthy didn't have this team prepared to go out and play smash mouth football and stop the run. Like, you have Van Der Esch and you have Micah Parsons, and you still couldn't stop the run. They ran the ball 41 times, the Broncos did, and you still let Javonte Williams have over 100 yards. Melvin Gordon had a touchdown and like over 80 or 90 yards, and you couldn't run the ball. It was just he couldn't get them motivated to play. They probably saw the news. Oh, they let go of Von Miller. They're probably giving up on the season, and they took this for granted because they were playing at home with a defense that didn't have Von Miller anymore. They just took this team for granted. And this team, the Broncos team, the coaches on their team did a really good job because they're like, oh, it doesn't matter that we lost Von Miller. We're still a good team. Like, let's go out and show the US, like the media, that we're still a good team. And it just went the opposite way. So I think it was good for the Broncos, but it was just the Cowboys just weren't prepared for this game.
Now, I wanted to ask you, Jonathan, and you can be honest here, but coming off a streak with the Cowboys, did you feel going into the game that you were going to win this, or was Dak's situation a concern for you? Because they had traded Von Miller, you guys were on a win streak, and it should have. I think I was reading an article just now that the Broncos had lost one of their a couple of their start. Not only did they lose Von Miller, but I think their defensive leader is inactive with a hip injury, and a bunch of injuries keeping that. Were you concerned at all?
Yeah, well, it's a long season, about 17 games, right? And so, yeah, once they said Dak was playing, I kind of questioned that. I was like, wait, why are you guys rushing him? We don't really need to win this game. We're up 3 games in the division. Okay, if we lose to the Broncos, it's not going to matter. Let's wait maybe a week or so and make him heal fully. And so, when they said he was playing, I knew I knew it wasn't going to be 100%. I was like, it's probably not going to be a really great game.
So then are you mad about them keeping in? Because I know McCarthy took a little bit of flack because in garbage time, this game was basically over. No, it was over. And in the fourth quarter, Dak's throwing passes around the yard. And then on a 2-point conversion, he takes the ball and runs up the middle. Like, come on.
I'll tell you why he did that. It's for us fantasy owners.
Okay. McCarthy's son had Dak on his fantasy team.
He's like, son, I'm not going to fail you.
Those 2 touchdowns in garbage time won me the week. So I am very happy. He just got enough. I was gonna be so mad. I started Dak Prescott, and he would have got me 10 points
because you had Lamar, right?
Against the Broncos. Oh, this is in my other league.
Oh, okay.
My other option was Daniel Jones, and there's no way.
No, you needed to start Dak.
Yeah. So if Daniel Jones had more points than Dak, I would have been very upset. So I think it was just we got to make sure the fantasy owners are taken care of. So let's get these 2 garbage points.
Yeah. Well, it was a week of upsets. It was so many teams. I mean, look at the Bills and the Jags. There was a ton of upsets for whatever reason.
Wait, did you guys see the stat with Josh Allen sacking and intercepting and recovering a fumble of Josh Allen?
Yeah. For those who aren't aware of what John is, I was going to say Josh is the reference. It's actually, I was planning on doing an Instagram post for this. It was the first time in NFL history that 2 players with the same first and last name, I think one had sacked the other or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you add all that other stuff where he made him fumble, recovered the fumble, intercept.
How does that all happen in one game? That's ridiculous.
I know. I was going to put the Instagram post going to be that, and also a bunch of comments from around YouTube, Twitter, where there was man, Josh Allen had a great day, but Josh Allen played real terribly. And it's still true.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with Jonathan where I felt like Dak was kind of not being, I don't know exactly what the status was, but he is very durable. He's played before with the shoulder thing a couple either last season or something. Mm-hmm. So I thought he was rushing it, but it's also you do get banged up in the league, and I was like, hey, he's probably gonna be fine. Like it's a game they should win, is what I'm trying to get at with the Broncos. With all the, you'd think the defense would be worse, not better, losing Von Miller, but I mean, it was. I just think what John said is right. I'm not gonna add much more. It's just like I think it was gotten too easy for the Cowboys, and they just lost that little like you said, like they needed a little reminder of like, yo, this is the you got a couple good wins, you got a lot of things going for you, but you gotta win those tough games. You can't underestimate your opponent.
Yeah, and it's I've really tried to find like reading between the lines and seeing if this is actually like this may be a downfall of the Cowboys, but their division is so bad that they could lose like 9 more games and they'd still win the freaking division.
Yeah.
Honestly, they didn't really. There was not really a sense of urgency, to be honest.
No,
Yeah.
they
But that's why they might have lost. Is like it was like, yeah, we win. It's another one under the belt. If we lose, it's not a bit. You know what I mean? So I think that mentality is not question.
It's not healthy.
It's
Is
not
that
good.
a winning? Well, you know what else is I do. I was gonna bring this up. I'm glad it was already brought up. But like they shouldn't have. Why would McCarthy keep Dak in that? Because it would have been 30-0, and I think he scored 2 touchdowns in the last 5 minutes. It's garbage time. Like it meant nothing. Why are you putting in your starter who is somewhat injured in the game at all when it does? Like put in your backup if the game's lost. The only other reason I could potentially see is that I'm looking at an article now that I think it would have been the first Cowboys shutout, a complete shutout. No, the worst shutout loss at home, according to sfgate.com. Worst shutout loss at home since 1985. So it makes me think that maybe there's like, I don't know if McCarthy had that exact stat, but it's like it would have looked and been a morale thing.
Yeah.
It'd been 30-0. So in that case, I'm like, yeah, 30-15 makes it feel less worse. But that, basically it was 30-0.
By the way, Caleb, now that you say that reminds me of something.
What?
So this is probably off subject, but the Atlanta Braves, they won the World Series like last week, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. The last time they won it was in 1995. That was the same year that Dallas Cowboys won the Super Bowl.
Oh, no.
Okay.
What?
What?
No.
Don't get ahead of ourselves now.
Oh, if we take this clip and then we cut to Dak holding the Lombardi, I will be so.
I'm timestamping it right now.
No, I will be so deflated.
Remember this moment.
Jonathan, you can't make you. It feels like you bring it up a stat every week. Like, oh, this is why Cowboys are gonna win the Super Bowl. Okay, this is why.
It rained on November 3rd. The last time it rained on November 3rd.
And the Cowboys lost. They won the Super Bowl that
That's
year.
an interesting stat. Maybe you'll see that on the Instagram, because then I'm sure people will agree with you, John.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
I mean,
but okay.
It's been a while since they've won. I thought you were going to say something with the analytics where they pulled that guy who was hitting a no-hitter because the analytics was like, yeah, like it was the better move. And they ended up winning, but that's also an interesting take.
Look, the next game is against Atlanta.
That's as easy as it can get.
And it's going to be – I put Dan Quinn revenge game.
Ooh.
Coordinator Dan Quinn may want to get some revenge on the Atlanta Falcons who fired him last season and put a stomping on them. But the Falcons have won 3 of their last 4 games. So they better not overlook this team. If they
better not.
If they lose back-to-back, it's going to be bad. All right, next up on the list, Odell Beckham Jr. Now, we're recording this Tuesday at 9:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Odell was not picked up from waivers, so he's officially a free agent. And as of right now, nobody has picked him up. 1, where will Odell go? And 2, are the Browns going to be better off without him? Jonathan, you want to start off?
Yeah, sure. Look, I've watched the Browns play for the past few years, ever since Odell joined them. And I've always known that, hey, these guys are better without Odell. These guys can play better without Odell. Yeah. The reason being, they're a run first offense. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, those guys are the priority. Then here and there they throw play action, and here and there they throw a pass to the receiver. And that's Jarvis Landry. He was good before Odell got there. Jarvis Landry, Joku, right? They already have the pieces there for receiving. So honestly, I didn't understand the trade too much when the Browns traded for Odell, because they didn't really need a receiver. I think they already have that locked away for what the team needs them to do, for what the offense is trying to do. And so I've always felt that they were trying to create stuff to make Odell happy the past few years because they didn't really need him, honestly. And so, in terms of where he's going, there's a lot of teams. I was thinking a few days ago, Las Vegas Raiders, but they don't need him anymore because of
Deshaun Jackson.
Deshaun Jackson, exactly. And so, I think a team.
Cowboys.
If I was a team right now, I'd probably get like if I was a team, I'll probably like the team that I would definitely sign Odell right now is the Houston Texans
Oh gosh, why?
because they don't have anybody. Literally,
Number one
They have-
guy.
they need somebody.
They have
Oh,
Cook.
if he's looking for a lot of targets, I mean,
No,
there's
he-
Brandon
no,
Cooks, okay,
But Odell said this week that he wants to go to a winning team.
yeah, he's a prima donna. He's saying he said there's going to be issues maybe through the waiver. Like, come on, that's kind of childish.
No, but okay. So
Maybe through
here's
waiver,
my
all these
thing.
things.
I'm not surprised that he passed waivers. I know, Jared, you were saying that you're surprised that nobody claimed him off waivers. Now, the reason I'm not surprised is for two things. The first is that if you claim somebody off waivers, you have to take on their contract. And Odell's contract was a $14.5 million contract, which is absurd for somebody who hasn't been performing and has been hurt like he has. So obviously, whoever wants this player, they're going to need to renegotiate. So to renegotiate, he would have to become a free agent, and then you talk with him, talk with his agent, and you renegotiate. Another reason why I'm not surprised that he wasn't claimed off waivers is because he has history of being like Jonathan said, like a drama queen type of player. So you don't want to claim him off waivers. Then you're obligated to pay his $14.5 million contract. And then what if he comes into your office? He's like, yeah, I don't want to play here. Then what are you going to do? Like, so you have to just let him go to free agency and then talk with him because you have to make sure that he wants to go there. You want him there, and then agree on a price, probably around $7 or $8 million, not nearly what the 14.5 million that he's getting now. So those are the reasons why I'm not surprised he didn't, or he cleared waivers and didn't get picked up by anybody. But as far as your question, the Browns are better without Odell Beckham. It's clear. Like you said, their record is 8-4 without him, and they're 13-15 with him. Baker's completion percentage is actually 6% better without OBJ. He has 14 touchdowns to 3 interceptions without him and 42 touchdowns to 29 interceptions with him. So it's clear that all the stats are that they're better when Odell isn't there because they're not forcing the ball to somebody who he's going to catch it probably, but they're forcing it into coverage. They want to get him the ball, and he just doesn't fit as much in this offense. That's not saying he's a bad player. Maybe he could fit somewhere else. And I think there's two possibilities. I think he's going to go to one of these two teams. It's either going to be the Saints, now with Michael Thomas tweeting out that he is done for the year, won't be able to make it back from his ankle injury. I think the Saints are a high probability. And also the Seahawks. Pete Carroll said in an interview, somebody asked him, what about, Odell? And he said, yeah, you'll see. Just wait and you'll see. So, we saw Josh Gordon go over to the Seahawks. I think it was last year or the year before. Now, Josh Gordon obviously didn't play that much, but I don't know how much he's expecting Odell to play. But it's a possibility that Pete Carroll goes for him with Russ coming back and the Seahawks wanting to make a run.
You think Odell is going to be happy in Seattle if he ends up going there?
No, I don't think so. I think he needs to go to somewhere where he's going to get the ball. And that's not going to be Green Bay. That's not going to be Dallas. That's not going to be Arizona. It's got to be the Saints. It's got to be somebody where he's going to be like, it's tough. How do you go to a winning team that he wants to go to, a winning team, and still be the number 1 or number 2 target?
Exactly.
The Packers. No, he wouldn't get, dude. Rodgers throws to Devontae Adams every play. He doesn't even, dude.
Exactly, because there's nobody else.
No, but he has Lazard is good.
Yeah, but not as good as Odell. Compared talent-wise, no way.
Yeah, but
maybe idea of Odell-wise, because Odell got super famous off that amazing catch. But it's like, I think the stat was in the past 3-4 years, like his receiving yards have been going down. And part of that's injury, part of that stuff. But it's like, I'd be interested to see the stats for, what I will add that's kind of a different take is what I didn't know until I just looked it up now. But on episode 28 and episode 30 of Dorm Debate, right? those corresponding episodes, November 29th, 2020 and
Oof.
December 10th, 2020, we had the same conversation similar to this. I don't know all the specifics, not the
We
same exact
did.
conversation.
Oh my gosh.
But
Yeah.
Odell apparently was injured. The Browns were doing really well. And we were surprised by that. And I'm looking because I don't know if you guys know, and the fans certainly wouldn't know, but I put all of our podcast into an AI thing that creates a rough transcript. So I looked up Odell, and there's multiple moments of us from last year saying that the Browns were playing better without
Wow.
Odell.
No
So
crap.
it's crazy
So
that this is
basically,
consistent.
what we learned is that the Browns owners don't listen to us because otherwise they would have traded Odell already.
I remember, John, you said like we had a game. It was like keep or trade or something, and you
Might
said
have been,
he should be traded.
Did I?
Yeah,
Might have been, yeah. Like, well, it was answering
That's
questions
hilarious.
from our fans, episode 28, and then episode 30 is your team making the playoffs. Let me do a couple more too, because I had mentioned earlier this year, but as well as before, but the Browns trying to make like a super team. Like it was like the era of trying to one up Kansas City. You know, like just getting as many stars. And I felt like the Browns were gonna too many sum of all the parts kind of thing. It's not gonna be enough. And I said the same thing about the Bucks. Now I think I was wrong about the Bucks, but kind of right with the Odell situation with the Browns. That apparently, from what I saw, was that the Browns, like Baker, has a really good like friendship with Odell. It just didn't translate to on the field for whatever reason. Whatever reason being, they're probably a run team, and then psychologically, there's the pressure. Like John, you said, statistically, it's just Baker's friends out there. He wants to throw it to him, but it's not the team's identity. But he doesn't want to be a bad friend.
Yeah.
And it's psychologically, you're a quarterback, and that's Odell Beckham Jr. Like, how are you going to not feed him the ball? But it's just like wasn't a good fit. I'll tell you what though, I think there's only one team that Odell will be happy on, and that's the Bucks. I think he wants Tom Brady to be throwing him the ball. I don't know if that's probably not going to happen, but like, have you guys seen the memes of like he gifted Brady some cleats or something, and Baker's just looking on like come on, man.
I haven't seen that, but I did hear that there was some talk between them that they wanted to play together at some point.
Yeah. I think I think he wants to go on a winning team, but honestly, I think it's code for Bucks. Please, I'm right here, you know. But he doesn't want to rule. He doesn't want to say if he said I'm only going to play for the Bucks, then he's not going to get paid this year by anyone else.
Imagine Odell Beckham being your fourth best receiver.
Yeah, and Tom Brady, he handles that well. If any quarterback can handle that, he handles that well.
Yeah.
Not only because he gets a lot of attempts, but he knows how to, sort of manage.
Yeah, well, look at Antonio Brown.
The time he's going to throw to
needs
Antonio Brown.
An elite quarterback to like
Well, he
make sure he
did
doesn't give him any shit.
Well, he did. Eli was elite and had him.
Yeah, but Eli was at the end of his career.
Yeah.
So
what about Raiders? Would they having just lost? I mean, they got Jackson.
Wait,
yeah.
I'll tell you right now. My personally, I would say Packers. It just all makes sense. I believe he would be the number 2, or under Devontae Adams, and it's good because it takes the eyes off of Adams. It's a Super Bowl contender, and it's the best quarterback that he's ever been with. So you can't really go wrong. What say you guys about the video that surfaced from Odell's dad that showed all the times Odell was wide open and Baker didn't throw to him? Is there any substance to that, or is that just kind of some animosity towards Baker?
Yeah, I mean,
definitely
it's not like Baker intentionally did that.
Is he just that bad? Like he can't see the field well, so maybe he should go to Packers where Rodgers is able to find the open man.
Well, you don't know what he not always is Odell the number 1 read in the offense. They run plays for certain guys. Maybe on those plays, his first look was going to be Hooper, and then he was going to look down to Jarvis Landry, and then he never got over to Odell because there was a pass rush or something. So I think the biggest story, I don't think it's anything on Baker, but it's just on the offense as a whole. Like the coaches aren't game planning for him to have over 100 receiving yards. Like they're not game planning for him to, have a great game. So it just says to me that this relationship is over. That once he posted that, and I saw that came out, then I was like, yeah, okay, Odell's time here is done.
Yeah, I think it's like either that's a tough relationship between Odell and his dad, or like his dad wanted the what's in his eye best for his son, and it's like, oh, but Odell can't do it because it's his friend kind of thing. I don't know the details, but it's definitely an act of animosity for sure in terms of just. I don't think it's totally fair because I feel like you could take any quarterback. You could even take Brady from this season and like a compilation of just wide open targets that just didn't get the read. And John, like you said, I think they talked about this. Shannon Sharp brought it up that two things. One being that this is probably Odell Beckham Jr.'s like last chance to prove he's worth the money and the number one guy because ever since there was a reason that the Giants traded him, which was kind of what Jonathan alluded to, was like the diva-ish. There's a difference between being passionate about the game and then also like just kind of becoming a distraction. I don't know. I don't think Odell's been a distraction for the Browns. Just hasn't been a good fit. But Shannon Sharp was saying that this was like this last chance to really, prove himself that he's still the guy because the stats, the money just doesn't line up to where the idea of Beckham is. And the second was on some of those, at least on one of those plays, I'll say, they brought up that Baker talked about why he was wide open and didn't see him was that basically Odell ran the wrong route. So where he looked for Odell, he wasn't there. So like he was open, but there's that connection. Again, his connection wasn't there. That on-field chemistry just didn't translate. So yeah, I think that video coming out was just like, fuel for the fire of like, okay, we don't want to lose this whole season.
Well, last question before we move on to midseason awards. Just give me like a one sentence. Do you guys think Odell would make a huge impact anywhere he went, or do you think he is basically a mid-tier receiver now?
I think that he's a mid-tier receiver now because if he wants to go to a winning team, they are not going to change their game plan enough for him to be a viable, like a top-tier receiver in this league.
Yeah, I agree. He's mid-tier for sure.
I think he's mid-tier. If he's healthy, he has a chance to perform. But like John said, like what team is? I think you're looking at a year contract. Like what team's going to long-term commit to him? I think that's indicative of the level of performance he's at now.
Yeah, piggyback off of that. He's got to get right with his injuries. He's just been on and off with injuries this year. So who knows if that's a lingering issue, but also like you just said, Caleb, not knowing your routes, that's inexcusable.
Well, I don't know if that's completely true for every time, but
not every time, but if it happens more than twice, like come on, like
if that happens at a huge school, huge high school or something, the next guy's gonna go up. So that's how you lose a starting position.
Doesn't matter if you're open.
Like if you're injured, what else more do you have to do than to just read the playbook all day? Like you should know, but
and it depends. I hear with the Bucks, like Brady will sometimes like teach his receivers to like adjust mid play. Like, oh, they're actually in this. You're expected to think the way Brady would want you to. But that made I don't know. You imagine the Madden ratings adjuster having to like balance out.
Yeah,
having Odell as your fourth back. It's like, but wasn't he on the cover of one of the Maddens? Like, how are we gonna give him like a 70, 80 something? Like, we can't.
Yeah,
can't do that.
Well, maybe there's some New York Giants reunion possibly. They're having some wide receiver trouble.
That would be poetic.
Bring another injury-prone receiver into our room.
I mean, you already have the jersey, so that would save a lot of people. I'm sure a lot of people would save money.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, if he had stayed, we probably would still be talking about him as one of the top receivers in the league. He should have just been patient and shut his mouth. But
yeah,
it's possible. Well, we'll see where Odell goes. Maybe before we even post this, he will have signed with another team. We don't know. Maybe. We're going to move on to mid-season awards. We just finished week 9 on our way to week 10. And now it's time to give our awards for MVP, Coach of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year. All the other ones, we don't have time for, to be honest with you. So first one, I'm going to just do the most obvious, Offensive Rookie of the Year. Mine, I'm wearing the Bengals, so it's got to be Jamar Chase. Jonathan?
Yeah.
Jamar Chase?
Yeah, Jamar Chase.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree.
All right,
yeah, Jamar Chase. I mean, 835 receiving yards, third in the league, and 7 touchdowns, also third in the league. So pretty
He's playing like
there.
a dominant top. He's playing like what we thought Odell was playing.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
No, I don't mean to punch down, but it's also the Bengals being that good of a team in a tough division. Because I saw second place for this, and a lot of polling was Mac Jones. which I get. It's
No.
usually quarterback favored, but it's just you got to give a little credit to the team. Like the team succeeds because of Chase as well as you know what I mean. So I'm going Chase too for that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dak-
and honestly,
Dak isn't that good.
it's good. It's good Burrow's on there because Burrow does give him a lot of targets.
Yeah,
So Burrow's he's helping him out.
that's
But,
fine.
no, still,
It's fine if you win games like that. It's fine.
Keep your receivers happy and get the dub. Next one, MVP. Now, my prediction for sorry, my prediction beginning of the season was Matthew Stafford. And I believe mid-season at this point in time, it would be Matthew Stafford.
Really?
I have two guys. It would either be Matthew Stafford or it'd be Tom Brady. But right now, Matthew Stafford, first in passing yards, first in QBR, second in touchdowns, leading the Rams to a 7-2 record right now. You can't ask for anything more than that. You really can't. He's performing exactly how I thought he would. Cooper Kupp has definitely helped him tremendously. The best receiver right now. He would get MVP if they gave him to receivers.
I mean, Cooper Kupp is on pace to have the best, I think, wide receiver season ever with the extra game.
And they still wouldn't give the MVP to him.
Yeah, they wouldn't. They can't. They have to give it to a quarterback.
Yeah, they have to. So it's going to go to his quarterback, Matthew Stafford.
That's
what do you guys think?
I mean, my preseason prediction was Josh Allen, and that remains my prediction for the rest of the season. But actually, my mid-season award, MVP award, if I had to give it out right now, would go to Lamar Jackson. And if you look at, we've all been talking about him, we've seen the games he's played. I mean, the week 1 tough loss in overtime to the Raiders, but finally beating the Chiefs in week 2 by 1 point. We saw that. We talked about that. Beating the Colts in overtime, coming back. That second half was insane. And then, beating the Vikings this past week. He just finds a way to get it done. And remind you that it's without all of his the 4 running backs that started the year on the team, or the top 3 running backs are all gone. So he's doing it with Devonta Freeman, Le'Veon Bell, Latavius Murray, not scrubs, but guys that are coming, off from free agency. And he obviously leads all quarterbacks in rush yards. He's second in quarterback fantasy points to Brady. So I think Lamar is having a great season. And as of right now, I would give him the midseason MVP award.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to have to give it to Tom Brady. The reason being, I think in terms of yards, passing yards, in terms of touchdowns, Lamar, Matthew Stafford, they're all about the same. But, Tom Brady, he has only 5 interceptions of the season. Stafford has 6. I think Lamar has 7 or 8. So I think turnovers for me, that plays a factor, despite, the passer rating. So Tom Brady has less turnovers, and he has, I think second highest passing yards, the most touchdowns, right? So I'm going to give it to Tom Brady. I think he's playing exceptionally well at 44. And what's the oldest person to ever win an MVP? Do you guys know?
Probably going to be Tom Brady.
Like in history,
Is it Tom Brady though?
For the season,
we're going to fact check right now.
Yeah, because I would think maybe Peyton, but oldest NFL.
Peyton Manning. You were right, Caleb.
Okay.
2013.
When was that?
2013.
Wait, 2017, Brady did it at 40 years old.
Yeah, that's what I saw.
Yeah, so Peyton Manning was 37 in 2013. And then Tom Brady is now the oldest when he got it 40 years old when he won his 3rd MVP in 2017.
He's going to break his own record.
Yeah, he could.
That's crazy.
With a probably better stats than that year.
Yeah.
That's messed up.
I'll say for me, it is a toss-up. Interesting.
Boston Scott, running back.
Jalen Hurt, Devontae. At the beginning of the season, it was in the season 1 milk crate challenge episode. We went through this, and I think my pick was actually Tom Brady, and that was like in a reverse psychology because I wanted him to do poor. I wanted either he'd do bad and I'd be wrong and I'd be pleased, or I'd be right and I got it right. He what people came to mind was one was Tom Brady, and it's just like I don't know. It's one in hindsight. I want to give more like maybe he doesn't statistically have the number one everything as a quarterback, but if he wins the Super Bowl again this year, he is the one piece that if you take away out of the Bucks just automatically go downhill. Like, and if Derrick Henry was playing, he'd come to mind. But at this point, with the injury, hopefully he comes back healthy. But that doesn't work. I will add, and I don't mean to bring it up, but Jonathan, I think you do you remember what your MVP pick was from Week 1?
Yes, I remember.
Oh wait.
was it
I
Tom
don't
Brady?
remember.
This is why we because
kidding, I don't remember.
I'll give you guys all access to the transcript.
Wait, you have gold hidden from us.
Well, this is why we did this, because so we could look back. And this is in hindsight. This is before even the first game was played. But Jonathan, it appears that yours was Patrick Mahomes.
Oh.
Damn.
Wow.
I was so wrong.
I mean,
it's kind of disappointing. I don't know. I think it's his. I don't mean to go personal, but his brother and his wife. People are just.
Come on
Immediately
now.
just goes for.
Like, I don't know.
I've heard that argument. Like Pat McAfee shows talked about that. Like, well, it's tough being worth $500 million, right? And then you just lost the Super Bowl to Tom Brady. Like psychologically, how much better can you be? You know what I mean? Like that's tough.
Yeah.
And then you add off-field stuff, I guess. But it's interesting because you had a point. It was like basically at the start of the season, he throws a ton and he's a really good quarterback. So it's like, what's changed this year? The offensive line should be better, but he's not performing as well as something you brought up, and it's still probably true. I don't know. The defense has sucked. I don't know. It's a respectable call at the start, but in hindsight, it's like what went wrong,
Yeah.
well, I'll
don't
tell
know.
you that a lot of his throws, he's like famous for those no-look throws. And
Yeah.
like he did that in one of the games and they ended up losing. It may have been the Chargers game. They ended up losing that. He did a no-look pass and it was behind the guy, hit
Yeah,
off the
sounds
guy's shoulder, bounced up, and Chargers intercepted it.
Oh,
And it's like he's been able to do that the past couple years. He's been so comfortable. And like from that point, it's like he hasn't been able to be himself because there's so much stress and so much pressure on every drive because that defense is so bad. It's like you kind of have to score every single time on offense, and it's not letting him be himself. He's not comfortable in the pocket anymore because there's so much pressure on every single drive to make a play. And he can't do those no looks anymore because you're 500. You can't afford to lose any more games you
Yeah.
already have.
yeah. Like
So-
he went from not. I mean, people would say he never had a bad game for a long time. Like honestly, for a couple of years, and he was just so lucky. And so it's like his luck ran out. I mean, you can get it back. I think it's a confidence issue. We talked about this last week, but for just to wrap up my thoughts for MVP, I if the Bucks win it, I would give it to Tom Brady because it's just like that's the essence of like the most valuable player. Statistically, it's probably going to go to a quarterback. And my thought, I like Lamar Jackson. He's a good pick, especially considering how many injuries they had.
Mhm.
And at running back, and he still leads in running, and there's still serious competitors. And we'll get a little more into this in the coaching picks, I'm sure.
Yep.
But it's either Lamar, Brady, or Stafford as well. Stafford's really to be your whole career with the Lions and then come and go 7-2. It's like what. It's similar to how Brady did, only the Lions were bad for so long. So it's amazing the Lions were always 8-8, almost just because of Stafford, because now they can't win a game. So it's that I think that's just, I'd probably put Stafford number 1 right now, and then Brady 2 personally.
Yeah, Stafford actually had a bad, probably his worst game
Yeah,
the other day. But we'll see how he bounces back. Let's go on our last one for midseason awards, Coach of the Year. Now, my pick for Coach of the Year seems pretty obvious, John Harbaugh. Does anybody else have John Harbaugh? Or do you guys all have different ones?
I have different.
I'm different.
I think I was gonna go John Harbaugh too.
Okay.
Why?
So I picked John Harbaugh because the glaring thing is injuries. They have 16 players on IR. I counted all of them. The only other team that has 16 is the Giants, and they're under 500. Obviously, not on the level of the Ravens. They're basically, this is a fantasy strategy that John Harbaugh is using. They're streaming running backs every week. It seems like every week a new running back is coming in. They're picking them off waivers and they're putting them in. Like, this is usually a fantasy strategy that he's now implementing in the NFL. We got Le'Veon Bell, Devonta Freeman, Latavius Murray was in, then he gets injured. It's like the injuries is crazy. And the fact that they have won this many games and are sitting at the top of arguably one of the best divisions in the AFC is astonishing. It doesn't make sense to me. It's like at some point, like I said, there's got to be a crash, but they just keep winning games. It's amazing to see. So to be at the top of your division in such a tough division, and to have 16 players on IR, and you are, I mean, they dominated the Chargers, one of the best teams in the AFC. They dominated the Chargers. It's like they are just rolling right now, and it's all attributed to John Harbaugh and the way that they play Lamar, coach Lamar, and get everyone ready for these games. Marquise Brown's having a very, very good year, maybe his best year yet. And this defense hasn't really, it's bent, but it hasn't broke yet. With all the injuries that they've had, they have not broke. And so far, you could arguably, you could say that they may be the best team in the AFC. But like I said, and I've said plenty of times, I feel like they're going to crash soon. I just don't know when. But as of right now, you're 6-2. You got to give him the coaching award, man.
Before you guys go, I'd add Harbaugh too, just because we're on the. I don't know if Jonathan, you have Harbaugh as well, but since I just had same reasons. Like if it's which coach is going to have the most wins, that's a different story altogether. But what coach keeps his team together, and what have they overcome, or like my kind of metrics for who should get it, as opposed to like who has the best scoring offense statistically, all that, but more of the intangibles. I'm going with Jared on this one.
No, I don't have Harbaugh, but I was just gonna say, I don't think it's comparable to the Giants situation, right? Because the Giants, their most valuable player is Saquon Barkley, but the Baltimore Ravens, their best player is Lamar, and he's always been there. You know, so as long as you have your best player, then I don't think you should have issues. You know,
yeah, but I will say that they've had a lot of injuries to the O-line. They've had their best running back, well, all of their running backs basically all gone, and they're a running offense. Like they definitely don't pass the ball as much as another team. So it's like, yes, Lamar is important and he's the most important, but that offense last year was like J.K. Dobbins and Lamar running the ball. And when you have injuries to the O-line, you have injuries to your running backs, everyone's going to be focusing on Lamar to run the ball. So he's had to sit in the pocket and throw for some of the most yards that he's ever thrown for. Like in the Colts game, where they came back and won in overtime, he has not thrown for more passing yards than that in any of his games before. So it's like they kind of had to alter the offense a little bit because of those injuries, you know?
Yeah, and a thing a lot of people don't realize, the offensive linemen, like those are the guys that really power the running backs. So, people say Derrick Henry. People are like, yeah, we need Derrick Henry. Not really. The offensive line is really good. And those running backs that played the other day, they're pretty good because of the offensive line. It's really about the O-line, not about the specific person, I think. And so that's why you're seeing the Baltimore Ravens still do good. Their O-line's pretty good. So they just need decent running backs that can find the holes and, execute the plays.
Yeah, I'd love to bookmark that thought, because you're personally a running back. And I always think, the running backs always have like a short, lifespan in the NFL, because like it seems like once a running back gets traded like one or two times, it's like they're done. But there's always that debate of, is it the O-line is good and that's why the running back's good and it doesn't matter who the running back is, or the running back is really good and that's why they're running really well. Like there's always that controversy of like, is the running back good or is it just the offensive line? So
yeah, I mean, I loved receiving the credit every time I scored or had a really cool highlight as a running back in high school. But I always knew in the back of my mind, I was like, it's the O-line. If they play bad, I'm gonna play bad. it's really about them. I think.
And I was an own lineman, so I was like, I'd block harder for the running backs who were like more courteous.
Appreciative.
Yeah, like those quarterbacks who buy their linemen like TVs and stuff. It's because like they're the unsung, like I played for a while, so it's like you start to be able to like lead other guys. But it's like when you're in that unit, it's like it as a lineman, it's cool when the running back gets more yards because it's like, man, I'm doing my job well.
Mhm.
I would say against Jonathan, like I think Derrick Henry's an anomaly. Like it's not a good example, but I think a good example would be like the Browns, like uh Jonas Johnson going in and killing it. I think he's a great running back too, but
Ernest.
that's like Dearness Johnson.
Yeah.
I think that's a good example of like if you have a really good offensive line, then if they're doing their jobs, people can do well. So I think, but I think Derrick Henry's just an anomaly. It's an outlier, out of the but yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I wonder what the numbers are on that. We'll have to look into that.
Yeah. So what's
Yeah,
your
but-
coach of the year?
Yeah, my coach of the year, I would say it
Midseason.
has to be Cliff Kingsbury. The reason being, they were 8-8 last year. Third in the division. They've already won 8 games. They're 8-1. That's a huge
Wow.
improvement. This
Yeah,
is
I
the NFL.
respect
That's
that.
tough to do. That's really tough to do. So, I have to give him credit for that. And, they do have more pieces this year with James Conner and Chase Edmonds and, AJ Green. But still, to be able to turn around a team like that, in a tough division and be on top the following year, I think it's a pretty tough thing to do. So I would have to say Cliff is my coach of the year.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, I like that pick because he's been able to utilize, like you said, they have so many weapons in their offense, and he's been able to utilize them all pretty evenly and spread the ball out and win a lot of games. So, and I like the Harbaugh pick also, but I still think I have a different coach that I think is coach of the year as of right now. And I'm going to try to persuade you guys to change your minds because this guy is clearly the number one, the coach of the year right now. It's Mike Vrabel, the coach of the Tennessee Titans. And they come into week 1, they lose to the Cardinals. But since then, they had injuries to A.J. Brown. They had injuries to Julio Jones. They, at one point against the Jets, which they actually lost that game in overtime, they didn't have Julio Jones. They didn't have A.J. Brown in that game. They didn't have A.J. Brown for a few games. Julio Jones hasn't even really played a full healthy game, and they've still found a way to get it done. They beat the Seahawks in overtime in week 2, beat the Colts in week 3. Then they lost to the Jets. That was without A.J. Brown and Julio Jones. But then since then, they've won 5 straight games. Jaguars, the Bills, remember that game that they beat the Bills? We didn't think that they were going to beat the Bills. And then the next week, they beat the Chiefs 27-3, just come out and destroy the Chiefs. Then again, they beat the Colts. And then last week, they beat the Rams on Sunday Night Football. Nobody picked the Titans to win this game without Derrick Henry. And Vrabel always comes up clutch with he is great. And the reason why the Titans are going to go further this year than the Cowboys, we saw it. Guys, this is an indication.
Why the Cowboy?
You just targeted
You
that.
got to
I
go
just
directly
realized.
to the Cowboy.
No, because I'm going to make a point that I made earlier. This is the reason.
AFC?
This is why the Titans are going to go further than the Cowboys, because this week is an indication of which coaches can motivate their teams. And the Cowboys come into a really important game. They overlook the Broncos and they lose. The Titans come in to an important game. Vrabel hypes them up, gets them ready. Even though we lost Derrick Henry, we're going to win this game. You guys are going to go out. We're going to win this game. We're going to play hard. And guess what? They go out and win the game. So when it comes time for playoffs, you need those coaches that know how to motivate their players. And it's obvious that Vrabel is the best motivator of the head coaches right now.
Yeah, dude, I almost picked him. That's a really good pick. It's tough to turn a team around like that, especially if you lose to the Jets. That really hurts your soul, right? And to be able to beat the Rams and all these other teams later, the Bills, and I think that's pretty impressive. So that's a good pick.
He is a great coach. He reminds me of a more human Bill Belichick. There's a famous video of him what was it? Belichick had used like a kind of a loophole in the rules to run the clock out more against the Jets, and there's a video of him smirking, right? And then in the playoffs, the Titans, Vrabel did the same thing, that the same loophole that Belichick had used against Vrabel used it against Belichick, and Belichick was furious. But Vrabel, like you said, he has that ability to. He's more human. It seems like, in the sense that I could picture him hyping the guys up, being that clever coach, that little conniving, but in a way that wins you games. He's a great coach. I respect that pick a lot. I would be more curious to see how they fare post Henry. Is like the determinant for me, because it's similar. I could see how it's similar to the Ravens. Like Harbaugh, the Ravens had a lot of season-ending injuries consecutively, but you give him one Lamar Jackson and he doesn't waste it at all. Like, not like an item, but like that's how good of you don't waste the talent. Whereas I think you might have shown a little bit of that with McCarthy when he was with the Packers and Rodgers. Like, it's just like you give Harbaugh one elite quarterback and watch what they can do together. I'd say Cliff Kingsbury is my second pick in terms of like that. I think no one expected the Cardinals to go undefeated for so long, and they were the idea was they were figured out and stuff. So it's like to turn the team around to and talking about last game, they didn't have Kyler, right? They didn't. It came down to James Conner. That was an upset game that the Cardinals probably shouldn't have won, but the team came around to win it. Acquiring all these pieces. So I respect Kingsbury. I also, if the Titans go on a winning streak without Henry, and he's able to galvanize, because AJ Brown's legit. I like him a lot as a receiver. He's had injury issues this year, yeah, but I think he's the top guy over Julio. I think Julio's Julio's still a great receiver, but it's not like Julio where you draft him number one for fantasy, But if they continue to win games, I could see that edge going to the Titans.
Now that we're done with those, we're going to end off with Week 10 predictions. Super, super quick. I'm going to name mine. I just thought of it just now. There's a game going on that really caught my eye, and I don't know if you guys would. Are you serious?
Is it a game, like you're saying, a social media game, or one of the games this weekend?
It's the game this weekend. And I'll tell you what, I'm calling upset. That's what I'm saying. Upset.
You think the Jets are going to beat the Bills?
I was going to say that.
No, of course not. The Panthers face off against the Cardinals.
No, bro.
Now,
Darnold's not playing.
Exactly.
Are you crazy?
PJ Walker is making his debut as his first. I believe it's his first start. Now, for a little backstory, he was the offensive MVP for the XFL, which, if people don't remember, the XFL is way better than the NFL. They have way better athletes. So it's so impressive that he got MVP. So this should be easy for him. So the other thing that is attributing to my pick of the Panthers is Kyler Murray is still questionable to play. They say they are not going to rush him back. And I assume, since the Panthers aren't a great team, they're 4-5, they're not going to rush him back for a game against Carolina. They don't give a crap. But PJ Walker, this is his life that's on the line. He screws this up, he's out of the league. But if he does right, and it's been the year of the backup quarterbacks, PJ Walker leads the Panthers to a win in Arizona, might I add.
That's actually not a horrible pick, because if Kyler doesn't play, then it's a Walker versus Colt McCoy. But I'd argue that it's actually McCaffrey versus James Conner in that game, because they're going to be giving both of those players as many carries as they can handle.
And McCaffrey had a very, very respectable game last week, and I think he's only going to get better and better.
I think they're ready to give him more touches.
So are you agreeing and saying Panthers? Are you going to go with me on this?
No, I think the Cardinals. I would have to say Cardinals as of right now, but I'm going to pick an upset. This is upset city tonight. I'm going to say the Lions. I know the last time I chose the Lions, they got absolutely roasted by the Eagles. I think the Lions, coming off a bye, they had a bye last week. They play the Steelers this week in Pittsburgh. I think they could beat the Steelers. The Bears almost beat the Steelers, and the Lions are sitting back, got to watch that Monday night game. I think they could come up with some game plan to beat these Steelers. What do you think?
I don't think so, man. I think it's fucking toast, bro. Just leave them at 0-17 and hey, better luck next year. We're mid-season. It's that type of vibe. Better luck next year.
Wow.
Sorry, no, it won't happen. They won't win a single game. So, Jonathan.
Yeah, so I sort of hinted who I was thinking about earlier.
Oh,
but
really?
It really depends on this one thing. If Mike White is ready to go, I think he's questionable. But if he's ready to go, I'm picking the Jets to beat the Bills.
No.
Oh, yeah. I'm picking the Jets to beat the Bills. I think they're playing in New York, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if Mike White plays, Jets will win. But if he doesn't, then
You think Mike White is good?
Dude, it's the year of the backup
Oh
quarterback.
yeah, he's good.
He's
just
good.
like you predicted.
Yeah.
Just like you saw.
Just like I said it like 3 years ago. Remember?
Exactly. And so the Bills. I mean, this is a division game. The Bills just came off a loss from the Jags. They're a little beat from that. And the Jets know it's possible. It's very possible.
It's possible. It is. It's possible.
So I think Mike White has another legendary game if he's back and defeats the Bills and surprises everybody.
That would be incredible.
If he wins, we're gonna have to repost my video. We're gonna have to repost.
All right, Caleb.
I don't have a serious one, but since I've been bringing up a lot of
have you just heard the last three?
Yeah.
since I've been bringing up
Come
a
on,
lot of
pick the Washington football team to beat the Bucks.
John's already ahead of me. I'm not okay because I've been dredging up a lot of the past because I have access to these this AI stuff. I'll bring up something that I don't have to look it up. I remember I said we were talking about what team would be the first to beat the Bucks when they were undefeated, and we all agreed that all you guys called the Rams, and I agreed. But my first thought and argument was the Washington football team. So my prediction, contrary to John, is that I will be wrong this week. So it's a double negative there. If I'm right, then
you'll be right on one of your things.
I'll be right on one of the predictions. So it's hedging my bet. But yeah, my prediction is I'll be wrong on my first prediction. 10 weeks after the fact. But yeah, you read my mind, John.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
You picked Washington to upset the Bucks back in the preseason or whenever they were undefeated.
Mm-hmm.
And now that they're facing them,
if they win,
facing them, you're saying, nah, they're not going to do it. So that either way, you're right.
They're down. Bucks or the Washington football team's down 9.5 or whatever it is. It's whatever this thing is, however that works. So it's not looking good.
Incredible. Well, I think that wraps up episode 10, season 2 of the Dorm Debate podcast. As I said before, if you're not following on TikTok and on Instagram, it is at Dorm Debate Podcast. John has a Patreon for all you fantasy football players, where it's a little more personable style. You can pay either $1 a week, $2 a week, or $5 a week to get fantasy advice from John and get his weekly picks and must sits. If you can't do the Patreon, then the weekly picks and the must sits will be shown on John's live, which is at noon on Sunday. It's about from noon to 12:45. You can go join that. He does weekly picks, rankings, must sits, Q&As, and everything. He answers all your questions. So it's always a good time over there. And as always, John and I have our John's Fantasy Football Show. It's going to be shown on Saturday at 10 a.m. It'll premiere. So be on the lookout for that on YouTube and hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed this episode. Thank you guys again so much, and we will see you guys next week.